Who really rules the world? The truth about corporatocracy. Have you ever wondered why government policies seem to systematically favor big corporations while ordinary citizens struggle more and more to make ends meet? Why bank bailouts are automatic while public services are cut? Why environmental laws have more exceptions than real protections? The answer is more disturbing than you imagine. We live in an era where democracy is just a facade, a carefully orchestrated theater piece to maintain the illusion that the people hold power. The reality is that those who really govern the world aren't the presidents, prime ministers, or parliamentarians we elect. They are entities that never appear on ballot papers, the megacorporations. The birth of an invisible monster, corporatocracy, didn't appear overnight. It's the result of decades of silent erosion of the boundary between public and private power. Imagine a giant termite slowly devouring the foundations of democracy, so gradually that by the time you realize it, the entire structure is about to collapse. During the 20th century, while societies celebrated their democratic achievements, something sinister was happening in the shadows. Corporations, initially limited to operating in the market, began to realize it was much more profitable to change the rules of the game than simply play it. Why compete on equal terms when you can write the terms in your favor? What began as occasional lobbying transformed into a permanent influence machine. Companies weren't content with selling products. They decided they were also going to sell politicians, laws, and eventually entire realities. The revolving door. When wolves guard the sheep. Imagine if a prison warden were simultaneously the head of a criminal gang. Absurd, right? Well, that's exactly what happens every day in the corporatocratic world, through what's known as the revolving door. A pharmaceutical executive becomes health minister on Monday, makes decisions that benefit his former company for 4 years, and the following Friday is back in the private sector with a salary 3 times higher and a resume that includes government experience. Meanwhile, the regulator who supervises banks receives an offer he can't refuse to become vice president of the country's largest bank. This macabre dance between the public and private sectors has created a hybrid ruling class that no longer distinguishes between public interest and corporate profit. They're like vampires who can transform at will between public officials and private executives, but always with the same thirst. More power, more money, more control. Money that speaks louder than votes. In a real democracy, each citizen would have an equivalent voice. In a corporatocracy, each dollar has a voice, and some have many more dollars than others. Electoral campaigns have become auctions where candidates go to the highest bidder, and the bidders aren't us. When an oil company donates millions to an electoral campaign, it's not doing it out of philanthropy. It's an investment. An investment that expects returns in the form of relaxed regulations, reduced taxes, generous subsidies, and privileged access to officials. It's as if they were buying shares in a future government. Politicians find themselves in a perfect trap. They need corporate money to win elections, but once they accept it, they can no longer govern for the people who elected them. They're like actors playing the role of public servants, but their real employer is behind the scenes. The ghost legislators. Here comes one of the most chilling revelations of the corporatocratic system. Many of the laws that govern our lives weren't written by the legislators we elect, but by corporate lawyers in skyscraper offices. The process is elegantly perverse. Corporations draft complete bills, with every comma and semicolon designed to benefit their interests. Then, through their lobbyists, they deliver these drafts to friendly politicians, who present them as if they were their own initiatives. It's as if tobacco companies themselves wrote the laws about tobacco control. Corporate lobbyists aren't occasional visitors in the halls of power. They're permanent residents. They have offices, direct access to legislators, and know the laws better than many of the officials themselves. They're like viruses that have infected democracy's operating system. The theater of information. For corporatocracy to function without massive rebellions, it needs to control not only what happens, but what people think about what happens. And that's where media control comes into play. The concentration of media outlets in few corporate hands isn't coincidence. It's strategy. When 6 companies control 90% of what millions of people see, read, and hear, you have the power to shape reality itself. Corporate media don't lie directly. They're more subtle. They decide which stories are told and which are ignored, which angle is emphasized and which is minimized, which experts appear and which remain invisible. It's like being the director of a movie where the audience thinks they're watching a documentary. When an economic crisis hits, corporate media explain to us that it's the fault of workers asking for too high wages or governments spending irresponsibly. We rarely hear about financial speculation, massive tax evasion, or market manipulation that really caused the crisis. United States, the perfect laboratory. If you want to see corporatocracy in its purest and most developed form, look toward the United States. It's the country where this experiment has gone furthest, where companies have achieved almost complete capture of the state. The pharmaceutical industry doesn't just sell drugs, it designs health policies. Oil companies don't just extract fuels, they shape energy and environmental policy. The military-industrial complex doesn't just manufacture weapons. It determines when and where they're used. It's as if the foxes hadn't just entered the henhouse, but had convinced the chickens that they are the best guards. The result is a country where military spending is untouchable but public education is defunded, where corporations receive massive subsidies while austerity is preached for social programs, where private prisons need to maintain minimum prisoner quotas to be profitable. Europe. Corporatocracy with a human face. Europe presents a more sophisticated variant of corporatocracy. Here corporate power operates through supranational institutions like the European Union, creating additional distance between decisions and affected citizens. Corporate lobbyists in Brussels outnumber European officials. They write regulations that are then automatically implemented in 27 countries, without any national parliament having real veto power. It's as if they had created a continental government where corporations have more representation than citizens. The 2008 crisis was the revealing moment. While the banks that caused the crisis were rescued with public money, austerity measures were imposed on citizens. Those responsible for the disaster were rewarded. The victims were punished. It's perfect corporatocratic logic. Privatize profits, socialize losses. Latin America, the corporate backyard. In Latin America, corporatocracy takes more brutal and direct forms. Extractive multinationals don't need subtleties. They operate in countries where corruption is more open and popular resistance easier to repress. Free trade agreements function as corporate constitutions that override national constitutions. A mining company can sue an entire country if an environmental law affects its projected profits. It's as if corporations had created their own international legal system where they are always the victims and sovereign countries the aggressors. Agribusiness rewrites agricultural policies, oil companies determine energy policies, and pharmaceuticals shape health systems. National governments become local administrators of global corporate interests. The new digital feudal lords. But if you thought traditional corporatocracy was powerful, wait until you meet its digital heirs. Google, Facebook, Amazon, Apple, and Microsoft have created a type of power that old monopolists couldn't even imagine. These corporations don't just sell products. They control the global flow of information. They decide what you see in your search, what appears in your feed, what products are suggested to you, even what news you consider important. It's as if they had created a parallel reality where they are the gods, and we are the unconscious inhabitants. Their power transcends national borders. They can influence elections in any country, shape global public opinions, and determine which smaller companies survive or die. They are the new feudal lords of the digital era. And we are their digital serfs. The medical-industrial complex. The COVID-19 pandemic dramatically revealed how corporatocracy operates in the health sector. While humanity faced a global health crisis, pharmaceuticals saw a historic business opportunity. The same companies that for decades had prioritized drugs for rich country diseases over vaccines for tropical diseases suddenly became humanity's saviors. But even in the middle of a pandemic, profit logic prevailed over public health logic. Vaccine patents were maintained as corporate secrets while millions died waiting for access to immunization. It's as if in the middle of a fire, firefighters charged for every drop of water and kept the water formula secret. Democracy hijacked. The result of decades of corporatocracy is a democracy that functions more like a simulated democracy. We have elections, but the options are pre-selected. We have parliaments, but important decisions are made in corporate boardrooms. We have free media, but information is filtered by commercial interests. Citizens vote every 4 years, but corporations vote every day with their donations, lobbying, and economic power. It's like a game where some players are allowed to change the rules in real time while others don't even know the rules have changed. Growing inequality isn't a side effect of the system, it's the objective. An unequal society is a society where power is concentrated, where the rich can buy political influence and the poor are too busy surviving to organize politically. Resistance movements. But the story doesn't end here. Around the world, citizen movements are awakening to this reality and developing resistance strategies. From Seattle 1999, when thousands of protesters paralyzed a World Trade Organization summit, to the most recent movements against inequality, an anti-corporatocratic consciousness is emerging. Experiences of participatory democracy in Porto Alegre, cooperative movements in Spain, transparency initiatives in Nordic countries, and student protests in Chile demonstrate that alternatives are possible. They're like green shoots emerging from the cracks in corporatocratic concrete. The key is understanding that corporatocracy isn't inevitable. It's a system designed by humans and can be changed by humans. But it requires that we recognize reality, that we're in a struggle between real democracy and democratic simulation, between citizen power and corporate power. The future in dispute. We're at a crucial moment in human history. Digitalization and artificial intelligence are creating new opportunities for corporate power to consolidate in ways that would make ancient dictators blush. At the same time, these same technologies offer unprecedented possibilities for citizen organization and participatory democracy. The climate crisis is forcing a redefinition of the global economic model. The question is whether this transition will be led by organized citizens toward a more sustainable and equitable model, or if it will be captured by the same corporations that caused the problem in the first place, creating a green corporatocracy. The call to awakening. In the end, corporatocracy is a system that survives thanks to our ignorance and passivity. It works because most people don't understand how it operates or believe it's inevitable. But once you see how the machine works, once you understand that your vote counts less than a corporation's check, once you realize that the news you consume is filtered by commercial interests, you can no longer pretend you live in a real democracy. The question isn't whether we can change the system, but whether we'll have the courage to recognize that it needs to be changed. Every purchase you make, every media you consume, every politician you support, is a vote in this silent battle between corporate democracy and citizen democracy. Corporate power is real, it's massive, and it's systematic. But there's something corporations can't buy, manipulate, or completely control: awakened human consciousness. And once that consciousness organizes and mobilizes, no corporate power is big enough to stop it. Corporatocracy isn't the end of history. It's just a chapter that we, as conscious citizens, have the power to close.